Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Grant Venerable joining us again, our professional of the year. We are excited to have him back here to talk more about all the work he has accomplished, still continues to accomplish, and of course, all the greater good he serves and provides. Again, we're here to honor our dear friend and to talk more about his work. Dr. Grant Venerable, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Fine. How are you, Jill?
I'm doing well. Excited that you're back with us. It's been a little hiatus here, but for those that may not know about you, boy, oh boy, we need a whole new show. There's so much to talk about the work you've done, and of course, all that you've done as a chemist, artist, author, and doctor. And you've been working at different universities, laboratories, and in executive roles. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we start today for the new timers out there tuning in.
I'm coming in my hat as an experimentalist, not of a laboratory where I do chemistry, but an experimentalist of life to actually run tests on my life experience.
Wow.
And which is a fun thing to do and a more possible thing to do when one has lived enough life to actually see some patterns. And that requires doing something that scholars have done since ancient times, is look at patterns to see what they can make of patterns in terms of their meanings. And what I hit upon really just in the last few days, is my brother and I were talking out here in this high desert country of Southern California, in the Yucca Valley, he asked it in terms of, well, what made you decide to move from Georgia, where you'd been for 26 years, and you'd been to Chicago before that for 3 years, and you've been so many places. And did you have any hesitation? I said, no. He said, well, why was that? I said, because I trusted life. And that's the question of the year, if not the question of the century, that I have to ask, which is getting more and more important, because it raises up different layers of existence that just, how are you doing, doesn't really raise up. But looking over the whole scope of my particular experiences was, what gives me the right to think I could have accomplished the various things I've done in the teaching field, in the chemical research field, and just generally in life, even when I've had disappointing moments. What gave me the right to think I should even overcome those and survive? And there've been near misses. I had to ask myself, well, how did I get past that? And it comes down to this phrase of, I trust life. In fact, it goes deeper. I have a faith in life. Those require two different areas of research to get evidence to answer the question accurately, properly. And it means that I picked up some important values in childhood. Maybe I picked them up before childhood, before I got to this existence. Did I pick them up from the ancestors somehow? Well, you can do that through your parents, through your grandparents, through older relatives. And so that's what frames what I have in mind today. It was quite a journey getting here in the first place. It took about 2.5 days driving from Georgia. I had to pack very carefully and quickly because my sister located an apartment in what they call liberty military housing,
Mm-hmm.
which people who are in the military have the right to access, or veterans. So my brother's a veteran
Yeah.
in the Navy from his young days. So that's how we were able to wind up here. But my sister was saying, well, if you don't take too long and get a deposit in, we can get a place for
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month less. And the rents are pretty reasonable in this part of the desert,
Mm-hmm.
where I understand we have 28,000 in this small city. This sits kind of on the side of a sprawling mountain of Joshua Tree National Park, which is really a small mountain range of amazing,
Yep.
beautiful mountains and oases and palm
Ah.
trees.
Ah.
And but it slopes down
Yeah.
toward the marine base. But it was a real adventure getting here and ensuring that my two kitties got here
Aw.
safely as well.
Yeah.
And they were not argumentative at all. Once it was about like 15 minutes getting out of the suburb where we lived
Mm-hmm.
in south of Atlanta, and then they were quiet for the rest of the trip. But it involved stopping for gasoline at
Mm-hmm.
places, but it involved stopping in roadside rest stops to get a few winks of sleep. It involved cutting across from Louisiana to the upper part of Texas, going through Dallas, and then going this long route down to El Paso, Texas. Was it El Paso? Well, it's where you cross into New Mexico
Okay.
through Las Cruces, New Mexico. Of course, that means the crosses.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking for a place to pull over in a roadside rest.
Wow.
The first adventure was getting a little bit disoriented in the middle of Las Cruces at 1:30 in the morning, which is
Mm-hmm.
a college town.
Yeah.
New Mexico State University is there. So there's always exciting things going on in college towns, places to get a bite to eat or
Mm-hmm.
going to entertainment and amusement places. And then I was ready to get back on the Interstate 10 to continue west through New Mexico
Beautiful.
and Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and got got lost. I
Aw.
couldn't find my way back to the interstate. And I was driving very
Mm-hmm.
slow. And then I saw two headlights in the rearview mirror that were getting closer. And I said, I think that might be the police.
Oh my goodness.
And I was thinking, I
Oh
hope it
my
is the
goodness. You're
police.
like, oh
I,
wow, yeah. Uh-huh.
I hope it is the police, because then I will
Yeah.
be found. It was the police. It was the Las Cruces
Oh my goodness.
city police. And it was one of the most delightful encounters I've ever had with the police, because there's so many stories that people
Yeah.
can tell about being stopped by the police for any number of reasons. And I thought my reason would be suspicious enough, and it was. And he came over on the right side of the passenger window, and I rolled it down. And he said, Sir, do you need some help? I noticed you were driving very slow. Is everything all right?
Oh
I
wow.
said, well, I'm a bit lost here. I'm trying to get from Atlanta, Georgia to uh, the high desert in California. And he says, well, let's start. Give me your driver's license. And usually I'm all ready with like insurance card and
Mm-hmm.
vehicle registration. But I couldn't. I blanked out on where I'd put them. They were right in the glove compartment. So anyway, he took the driver's license back to his car and came back in a few minutes. And he said, well, the Georgia Highway Patrol says you're in good shape for everything. And I got your license, your vehicle registration and through the Georgia Highway Patrol. And so you need to get back to Interstate 10. Well, let me tell you how to do that. Well, this was a young guy. He couldn't have been more
Yeah.
than 24 years of age and had such a very mature, adult, pleasant manner. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, I'm so fortunate. And
Yeah.
he just asked a few questions and about myself. And I said, well, I'm a retired chemistry professor. And so that must have been interesting. So he told me to follow him, and he was going to go up the middle between these two
Oh,
bridges
wow.
that carried the middle state. And he would peel off somewhere that would put us in the lanes going west. And that
Hmm.
I was to stay on because he was going to get off at the next exit, which was
Okay.
maybe another mile and a half. And it worked like a charm. So I stayed on the freeway while he peeled off to where he had to go next. And he could really drive fast. That was
Yeah.
amazing. Such a skilled, fast driver. So that was good. I was on the interstate until
Aw.
I got sleepy enough and got off to the side of the road somewhere. And I think it was Arizona by that time. And so the rest of the trip went well. Even that part went well. And I'm constantly watching my own reactions, my own responses to my reality. And so nothing inside of me when I was pulled over by the police got any negative reaction. And I make sure that that's the case. So
Yeah.
I present my most positive self in an unknown situation like that. And they always work out the right way. Now, people may say, oh, I don't believe that or something like that. But if it comes to the question of
Mm-hmm.
do you trust life?
Yeah.
I even trust life when I'm being pulled over by the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been pulled over maybe all of, I don't know, a number of times over the years.
Yep.
The most interesting time was in the 80s when I was a much younger guy. I
Yeah.
was pulled over on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, on the bridge itself. And I noticed the blue lights came on behind me. So that meant
Oh.
I had to stay on the bridge until the first off ramp
Mm-hmm.
north of San Francisco in the Sausalito off ramp. And I pulled over into the big parking area where people stop to look at the Golden Gate and the city of San Francisco. And these two guys, they both got out. I got out of my car, and they say, "We noticed you didn't have an up to date license tag." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I forgot to put it on." And I went into the trunk, and there it was. I had just uh, dallied around, and I put it on right there. And then they just conducted some fun small talk, and he says, "I won't ever tell you look like Lionel Richie." But
Oh
I,
my
you know,
goodness.
I laughed and I said, "As a matter of fact, I have."
Yeah, I
so
could see it now that you said it.
so so when my hair is curly style, that's and of course I was younger then,
Mm-hmm.
and then I drove on up to back home to Sonoma Valley.
Aw.
So why am I? I'm taking that kind of cruise through life because I do want to talk about not really what is the purpose of life, or
Yeah.
it is, um, do you trust life?
Hmm.
And that's a big, big philosophical question because it
Right.
comes down to, well, what gives you the right to trust life? What do you mean by trusting life? Well, it really means that I'm comfortable with how I live. I'm comfortable with the people who, whom I attract in life. I'm comfortable with the people that I'm attracted to
Mm-hmm.
in life.
Yeah.
And when you think about it years later, that's a very fortunate thing to be very interesting experiences in life.
Yeah.
And they become a constant. They're all the same kinds of positive experiences. Again, how does that come about?
How does it?
Um, Now, see, there's the question.
Yeah.
How? How? Um, I'm not sure I know, really. I know that if I keep my mind
My God.
stayed in certain situational stuff of life, that
Yeah.
seems to hold the pattern in place. Even when I've had negative experiences. And I think my most negative one, the first one I had was as a young professional, assistant professor of chemistry.
Yeah.
And I had actually transferred to another campus
Okay.
of the University of California. And I was called in by the head of my college at that campus to give me my walking papers
Wow.
to say that you
Mm-hmm.
are dismissed from the
Wow.
faculty. Well, there's a certain way that the best universities dismiss faculty for whatever reason, and it has to hold water. It has to be done properly by
Mm-hmm.
uh, legal means, which means they have to give you a year so that you can hunt for a new job.
Yeah.
Because academia is a different kind of profession where it's so specialized in terms of how you educate yourself, how you
Yeah.
get a degree. It takes years
Yeah.
to get a doctor of philosophy degree. So you've invested quite a lot. And that's part of the mutual respect that you
Mm-hmm.
have with colleagues in the university, with you and the institution
Yeah.
of the university. Well, it was a surprise. And I'm kind of glad I brought up that experience because
Mm-hmm.
even though I was pretty upset in the home of this head of the college, and he was a very respected man nationally across the country, and I was pretty shocked. And I said to myself, this
Hmm.
wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So why is it happening? Um, I would say it took me a good week to calm down emotionally, but it took some guidance. There again is, do you trust life?
Yeah.
Based on the nature of my life experience, even then I had to say, I still trust life.
Yep.
So what's going on here? What am I to get out of this of value? And I
So true.
decided I needed to go visit the gentleman in the college. That campus had about 12 colleges, still
Yep.
does, undergraduate colleges, plus graduate research departments. And even though I taught chemistry in this college,
Hmm.
uh, I went to see the gentleman who is called the preceptor. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
nice title from ancient Greek
Yeah.
education. The preceptor is like the go to counselor where you can get advice on anything.
Mm-hmm.
Very important position in the student affairs area. But I wasn't a student, I was a faculty, and
Yeah.
I knew him. I knew him very well. And I decided, why don't I call on him at his home, which was maybe only a mile from my home, and rang the doorbell. And a gentleman answered the door that I did not recognize. And I said, well, is Ray here? No, he's on vacation. And he got me to house sit for him. So he introduced himself and I introduced myself. And, but something about me told me this gentleman had more values and sensibilities than you'd ordinarily run into just cold meeting someone. And he took a look at me and he said, you need to talk? Can you imagine the sensitivity that kind of question,
No,
given
my
where I
goodness.
was at that moment of time?
Yeah.
And I said, actually, yes, I do. He said, why don't you come in? So I knew the house. I was comfortable in the house and sat down and told him my tale of woe in like just a couple of minutes. And he began to ask the right questions
Yeah.
that gave him a sense of uh, what my life was about, what it's been about. And I answered, and he said, what would you like to do about this situation? And I said, well, this may sound strange, but I don't think you'll find it strange. And I said, there's some nice big pillows in this living room that you sit on, where students could sit on and talk. And I said, I want to take one of those pillows and beat the crap out of the pillow. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
After he gave me the permission to do that. And then his question was, how do you feel now? I said, I feel a lot of relief. I feel a lot of release of tension. And I'm so glad that I did that personally, because I felt in so much rage, too much rage for a human being to carry around without acting on it. And I didn't want to act on that kind of rage. And so I had to acknowledge that I trusted myself to be able to proactively go forward and ask someone, even though I did not know them, but they knew the man that I had come to see. And no telling what negative stuff or consequences I might have avoided just by that simple act of reaching out. I'm saying that to say there are people watching your podcast right now, the interview, who are in a similar kind of situation and may not know what to do.
Yeah.
I think more now in 2025 than in 1980. If you can imagine the years that have gone by, 40 plus 25. Was it that long? No, it wasn't that long, but 20. That's right. 20 plus 20, 25 is about 45 years. So I went on with my life to make some decisions on what to do. And the first thing, when that happens to a male human being, the research tells us males tend to go into a fight or flight response. Until about 20 years ago, that was the common knowledge that, well, they thought everybody did that. But the latest research was showing that females do something very different, which is also relevant to this conversation. Because I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I've mentioned it to a number of people. Females go into an activity called Gumbo Yaya.
What's that? Never heard of this.
I wondered if you'd heard that.
No, this is
It's
something new. I love learning new things, Grant.
well, it's a term from where? The
Okay.
part of the country that's from, namely New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
It's a New Orleans cultural
Yeah.
term. And because women and younger females do what they do, when
Yeah.
they're upset, they get excited.
We do.
They go run to talk to each other.
We
As,
do. We're so Gabby. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as
Yes.
many each others as they can find. Nowadays, of course, they can do it on the cell phone
Oh, you're
so
so
easily.
funny. Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
they just stop. And down there, they serve one of the favorite foods is gumbo.
Mm-hmm.
And the yaya has been added to it
Ha!
as the talk that
Got
gals
it.
have over gumbo.
Got it.
And they
Oh
may
my
not even
goodness.
be having a gumbo feast, but
Wow.
they reached for the phone and said, "Girl, are you home? I got to talk." And then more of them get involved in the action, and they all get together and just gumbo yaya for like 2 hours. But what
Oh,
it's doing is it's releasing tension so that the right stuff, the ideas, the answers come up for them. Men do the opposite.
mm-hmm.
They're ready to have a fight with you, or if you look too big, they're going to run.
Oh
So
my
that's called
goodness.
fight or flight. And it was thought all human beings did that. No, it was just the guys that did
Yes.
that. Um, that's also important for me to share today
Wow.
because if you look at the difference in the consequences, and when males learn how to code shift from what
Mm-hmm.
their reptilian brain is telling them to do to maintain their cool and their ego and their pride, they can also do their own version of
Yeah.
gumbo yaya
I
and
love it.
come out of it in the right way. And because I did what I did, and it was just one guy I found, and that was Ray's friend who was house sitting for him. That let me avoid, I'm sure, some very severe consequences. Because
Mm-hmm.
although I might have felt like I wanted to hurt somebody that I thought was responsible, and there were many candidates for that, but
Yeah.
I was able to move past that
Mm-hmm.
point and develop some clear thinking, some calm thinking, and uh, and to decide, well, what do I do next? So that
Yeah.
opened the doors for friends to give me suggestions. And the thing that came up was, well, I'd always wanted to live in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
and I always knew how to put together the means to do something.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I began to pack up my things, and I had enough resources that I could live on. And one reason was the good fortune that the California real estate market
Mm-hmm.
had in the 1970s and that was developing in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And in my previous job, I had bought my first house. It was what you call a fixer-upper in 1973. I bought that house. I was a new professor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, one of
Okay.
the most beautiful places you could ever think of working.
Ah.
And I lived in the country about 3 miles south of the campus.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I leave such a
Yeah.
paradise?
Why would you? Yeah.
And I had to look at that. But that's what the
Yeah.
later experience helped me to look at. So my life has been about this life that I trust has taught me to look at why I've made certain decisions. And
Yeah.
if they're not good, how to not do that again. Or if they're good, how to stay into that flow path that surfers look for
Beautifully
in
said.
the
Yep.
waves. So here I was in Santa Cruz at that university. And of course, what's the main ocean sport is surfing. So I picked up a lot of the traits that how surfers think and how they locate that right wave to engage with a
Yep.
big wave. And of
Mm-hmm.
course that's some of the smartest surfers that have ever lived in that little part of Santa Cruz. So I
Amazing.
use that surfing metaphor
Wow.
as how to find the right current in your life to
Ah,
get engaged with your surfing resources
yeah.
of your brain, your feelings, your heart, your mind, so that you're beyond fear. Surfers can't surf if they're overwhelmed by fear.
Oh
The
my
bigger the
goodness.
wave, potentially the bigger the fear,
Darn
but
right.
actually it's the greater the excitement.
It is.
So that
The thrill.
all that background helped me to get into make the move to San
I was
Francisco.
gonna say, don't tell me you're an avid surfer now, too, Grant. There's so much I'm learning
Well,
about you still.
I tell you what, I
Wow.
became a body surfer,
Mm-hmm.
and and uh, and that was a wonderful thing. Um, let's see, I'm trying to. There I am. Anyway, you can hear me, can't
I
you?
hear you loud and clear. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna fly blind here because um, what that adventure in Santa Cruz led me to was to be in places where I was around the right people at the right time. Because I decided with the way I learned to teach
Mm-hmm.
chemical problem solving, I could actually utilize in high tech industry, which
Okay.
was not too far north of the Monterey Bay and
Mm-hmm.
Santa Cruz. And I decided I could do a business of seminars
Hmm.
in which I teach company staff how to manufacture, design and manufacture microchips better, more efficiently. So that's the adventure I got off on. And it put me in touch with people that I would not have been in touch with before. But
Yeah.
one was a counselor in the San Jose area. And I didn't imagine we were even going to have a conversation that we had. But uh, I talked to the secretary in this office where I was going to purchase an advertisement to advertise my seminars.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was the woman receptionist picked up on my vibrations. It's the only way I could put it.
Mm-hmm.
She says, I think there's something you'd be interested in. And there's a meeting about it tonight in San Francisco.
Wow.
If you could drive up there. And it was only like
Mm-hmm.
70 miles away. So I did that. It's in a big hotel, the Hilton Hotel. And it was a result of that meeting at the hotel
Mm-hmm.
that I wound up with a counselor in the process when I was looking at doing an event that was the next one to be done. I mean, the first
Mm-hmm.
event was fun and it was interesting and it was useful.
Mm-hmm.
But when was getting interviewed for the next event, um, I was asked, well, what's the worst thing that's happened to you in the last 6 to 12 months?
Yeah.
That was a slam dunk. I said, I got fired from a
Wow.
job I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And after batting that around a little bit, the interviewer, the counselor said, well, I got to ask you a question. You didn't see it coming, Grant? And I said,
Wow.
no. But once I thought about it, I said, I'm not telling the truth.
Yeah.
I did have some inkling, but I didn't act on it. That's what happened. And that was one of the greatest tools that I picked up at that stage of life going forward. And so every time I got a new job, I was much more alert, much more keenly sensitive. But I had violated some uh, practices, good practices of relationship with one's colleagues, and that
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to piss one's colleagues off. You want to make people happy who you're around. And that's what I learned more how to do in the next 10 years. I was able to spend time in Silicon Valley industry. It was a completely different experience from academia.
Mm-hmm.
Experience I needed to get
Yeah, for
because
sure.
academicians develop certain habits
Huh.
about when they publish and they teach. They have reputations to try to protect. And and I was just not picking up some of the basics of basic relationship making
Mm-hmm.
that comes back to the question of do you trust
Of
life?
yeah.
I should not have trusted life fully, but yet because I did, I drew experiences to myself that would help me trust life, if that makes any sense at all.
Sure does. But boy, oh boy, you
So,
have so many stories. Go ahead, go ahead.
so over the next few years, it was getting better at being aware of my environment where I was working, or even if I was just eating dinner somewhere. And it was a treasure trove of getting to know my life even better. Because the more I did that, the more I attracted people to me, whether they were on my job or sitting somewhere in a park or in a restaurant somewhere. Things that a lot of people these days would say, well, that's crazy. How would that happen?
True.
But if you
Right?
get into a surfing flow
Mm-hmm.
of how you live your life, it's what you get. That's the thing that happens. I
Ah.
know my brother, long after I left Cal Poly, um, was traveling through the San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach area and stopped at a restaurant in that area. And the young lady who waited on him said, I have to ask you a question. Um, you look like a gentleman I had as a teacher
Oh
once
wow.
at Cal Poly.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, do you happen to know Grant Venerable? And I said, that's my brother talking. And and but that's one of the things that
Wow.
happens and
Yeah.
can happen because my brother has kind of a similar vibrational structure as I do.
Mm-hmm.
So that I realize I'm on this flow of conversation to really illustrate the idea
Mm-hmm.
of yes, I trust life. And the more of it I have, the more faith I have in life. But I realized in the last week, it gets virtually religious
Yeah.
to ask that kind of a question
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it doesn't need to be a religious figure, even or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still working with the same idea. The more that you trust these high and good energies of life,
Yeah.
the more success you have in life,
Yep.
even when you do not have a successful moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the point that I'm trying to get across. At one point, after living in a year in San Francisco, I lived for 12 years in Sonoma Valley.
Ah.
That
Please
was
tell
a
me you like
beautiful
wine. Do you like wine?
talk about wine country and wine. Yes, I got to know the wine world. I got to know the different varietals of wine that grow in that valley. I got to know people I didn't know before. A lot of people, older people, retire there. Many of them were very well-known, great people. They were in all fields of endeavor. Well, there was a lady that lived across the street from an older friend who had created most of the sculptures that were in the Washington National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. But she
Wow.
was revered for that. There was another lady who lived in that valley named Julia Child.
Ah, I love her.
Julia Child came
Mm-hmm.
there because of Mary Frances Catherine Fisher, MFK Fisher. And
Yep.
they kind of did a thing together. Fisher was a writer of food,
Yeah.
how we live our lives, particularly our romantic, erotic lives around
Mm-hmm.
food experience. But Jack London lived in that valley 100 years before that. So did other great people. Maya Angelou lived in that valley just a couple of years before I moved there. So what am I finding? I'm finding people who are, if not like myself, but we were interested in the same creative pursuits, and we were around people who were creative. My music developed a lot in that valley, and so that's a whole nother story. But does anything come to you that do you need to ask to pull some things together before
You
we're done here?
no, you have this a series of, I mean, a way about you. Clearly, you've seen a lot, you've done a lot. You are so well educated, so well versed. You live such an amazing life, and I love every time I talk to you, we always find something different. We learn something new from you. And unfortunately, though, we're out of time. It's almost 3 p.m.
Oh,
here, Eastern Standard Time, or else we could chat more. I know we got off to a late start, so I do
well,
apologize. There's really no more time to chat, but Grant, how can we kind of sum up today's show for you?
today's show was getting deeper into the practical aspects of life based upon what I can share about what's in my memoir called Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. Because so much of my life has been chaotic, but I've figured out with the various footprints that I've made in life and that people around me have made that I've become more skilled
Yep.
at navigating life. And that's how I would sum up today.
Ah,
And if you would get that memoir, 4 e-volumes, ebook volumes on uh, Barnes and Nobles and Amazon, Apple, you'll see what I mean, because I've actually put down specific experiences up to the year, I'd say 2019, which that's when the coronavirus came knocking,
oh
and
my
a
goodness.
lot of people's lives kind of were quite jarred by that and other things. So,
Ah, well, thank you, Grant. How do we contact you if we're interested in reaching out?
and VENTWO at AOL.com.
Beautiful. Always a pleasure
And
talking to you. Go ahead, Grant. Say it again.
and my website is grantvenerablephd.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. A pleasure having you here as always, and looking
Okay.
forward to the next time we connect, darling. You enjoy your day. Boy, oh
Okay.
boy,
Thank you.
Sonoma County.
Thank you, Jill.
Always
Thank
something to
you.
talk about. Wow. Thank you so much,
All
Grant.
right.
Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, congratulations on being our professional of the year. Thank you.
Thank, thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind, like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind, like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama, like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.